Hello everyone, and in this video I will show you that it's actually possible to get at least 1 second in just under 10 minutes. So this video, I just got one lap from one of my subscribers and I decided to analyze it with my own lap, and just to show you that sometimes you're not really looking to places where you should be looking and the time is just there standing and waiting for you to get it. So I think I'm gonna be short with this one, and if you're not subscribed to this channel, please make sure that you subscribe, because I will just gonna be posting a lot more of these videos in the future. So guys, let's begin. And let's begin. So this is the first corner where I noticed that, for example, he's definitely not using as much track as he possibly can. So use more track. That's the first one. That's definitely the first thing that you need to do for every single track, not only this one. And now we have the laps side by side. Mine is on the left and his is on the right. You can see that I'm starting to accelerate much earlier, and just because of that I can use more track, or I'm using more track so I can accelerate earlier. Either way you take it, it's pretty much the same thing. And now because of it I'm carrying much more speed onto the straight, and the difference is quite apparent. I'm much further ahead on the road, and this is just the first corner. The next one, as we're going into this one, you can once again see that he's probably not using as much track as he possibly can be using. So I slow down the footage. As you can see, there is a plenty more space on the left hand side, and of course you can start to accelerate much earlier, because eventually the line isn't exactly the best, because you're not at the optimal line if you're not using the full width of the track. So the point of the story, use more track on the left. And also one more thing that I noticed is that he is braking too early. So always find a specific point on the track and brake at that specific point. And then as we're heading into the second section of the track, which is usually the difficult one, you need to start accelerating earlier. And the only way to do that is to straighten up the car a little bit sooner. So once again, you can use more track on the right, and here we got 1 second of difference, which is quite a lot when you think about it. Here, once again, you can start to use more track if you just accelerate earlier. I'm much closer to the fence. I know it's difficult. It's definitely one of the hardest things to do, but here, definitely tag this curb and you will get a much better line out of this turn, and you will eventually get more speed and you will get a wider angle. So in general, with a wider angle, you will get more speed, and this whole section will eventually be much quicker. So here you can see once again that I'm using all of the track possible, getting as close as possible to the wall. I know this is a very difficult thing to do, but just look at my line. So I'm already starting to turn in when I'm going into this turn. So I'm not waiting until I go up the hill to start to turn in. I'm already turning at this point. So just kind of managing the power at this point. And now I can get closer to the curb and the car isn't understeering as much. Now, as we're getting into, well, the toughest section of the track, you can see that he is always about 50% on the brakes and never really reaching up to that 100%. So this is just prolonging the braking distance, and in the end, braking and turning will cause more understeer. So he's staying longer on the brakes, and he also needs to turn in to stop the car. So, or eventually make the car to turn in. So brake longer in the straight line, longer and harder in the straight line, so you can get the car rotated very nicely when you're going downhill. So you don't have to really think about it too much. And the same thing applies in this corner, which is pretty much the same thing. More braking in the straight line, and then eventually you just need to let the car to rotate around the corner, which is pretty easy when you don't have to brake. But if you stay on the brakes too long, you will cause a lot of understeer, and you will have a feeling that the car is completely unable to turn in. So more braking in the straight line and less trail braking, which usually causes understeer in this corner. So as I said before, trail braking causes understeer, so brake more in the straight line and avoid getting onto the marbles, which in the end means turn in earlier into this corner. And then eventually you can start to see the difference. So the difference at this point is, well, it's quite big. So yeah, we are looking at about 2 seconds already. And just as we're approaching the last section of this track, which is usually a deal breaker, I do have to suggest one thing. Take a little bit of a wider line and then start to accelerate while avoiding the curb. Just because you're avoiding the curb doesn't necessarily mean that you're not utilizing the full track. It means that you're not unsettling the car, which means once again you can start to turn in. Of course, accelerate earlier. In this one, I do suggest not hitting the curb, because it once again unsettles the car. I think this was just a slight mistake. Always stay in the track limits. Don't try to use the grass there, because it is usually slower. And yeah, in the end, if you got any questions, please let me know down in the comment section. And also, if you want to subscribe, you can always consider subscribing to the channel for more of these videos. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, bye.